Want your photos to feel three-dimensional and magnetic, like they could jump off the screen? It's all about mastering dodging and burning, and today I'm showing you exactly how to do it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you want to level up your editing game and make your photos pop with professional level depth and drama, you're in the right place. Today we're diving into one of the most powerful but often misunderstood techniques in photo editing, dodging and burning. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to control light and shadow to direct the viewer's eye, create depth, and add stunning visual impact. Let's get right into it. So today I'm going to be showing you how to dodge and burn with Lightroom Classic and in Photoshop. I find that by doing a limited amount of dodging and burning with exposure and shadow brushes in Lightroom to be a good foundational place to start, and then moving over to Photoshop to match my light and shadow tones with some paint for the final pass. Here we'll be working with a photo of a lighthouse that I took off the Hudson River that I've already roughly edited, framed, sharpened, and denoised, and then I've adjusted some of the color tones. If you'd like to see videos on those steps, let me know in the comments. But even with my current edits, we can see that the lighthouse, which is the subject, is getting lost with the rest of the photograph, and your eye is getting pulled directly to the sun, almost completely losing the lighthouse as the subject, as opposed to the sunset being a complement to it. You can also see that my contrast, which contrast fundamentally increases your highlights and darkens your shadows to create more dynamic range, isn't giving me enough definition here. So that means I need to start isolating on specific parts of the photograph to pull out so that I don't universally impact the entire picture. To start off, I want to lighten my highlights to assist me with pulling out the areas that I want to be more prominent. And in this case, we're going to start with the lighthouse. So I'm going to head up to my masks, add a new brush, and adjust it so that my flow and density are about halfway. And since I'm looking to do more detail work that I don't want to bleed over into the rest of the picture, I'm going to turn that feathering down quite a bit. For now, I'm just going to be working with the exposure so that I can see what I'm doing. Then, I'm going to start looking for places that I want to lighten based off of where the light is currently hitting to work and pull in those highlights also. And don't worry, if it looks like you're overdoing it right now, we can adjust the overall mask levels and the effects at the end to reduce our intrusion. But anywhere the light is shining through gets a treatment. So now that I've dodged most of the areas that I think that I need to in this photo for this example, we're going to go on down and we can crank up our exposure a little bit just to see the areas that we've applied the brush to. And then we can come back up here and look at before, after. And of course, the inverse can be done with the burn part. So at the same thing, we go up to what we did before, open up our brushes, create another brushing mask, but this one the opposite, where we're going to turn down the exposure a little bit. And then go back on some of those darker areas and start looking at those shadows and just not going too much, but just putting a little bit more on those to draw out that contrast just with a little more isolation. And feel free to interchange between these two as you see an area that you want to pull out more from a dodge and then an area you want to burn. These are interchangeable. And then just like before, we could decrease or increase the exposure to make the mask look as natural as possible. One thing I will note is that areas where maybe the light wraps around, so if for example this lighthouse is spherical, so obviously the right hand side where the sun is going to have a lot more light than that left hand side. We need to compensate for anything that we might have exposed with the dodge with an opposing burn to still get that 3D shape. And a little bit of artistic eye comes in here when applying this effect. So now here in Lightroom we can see that we've done a pretty good job of grabbing our highlights and bringing our shadows down a little bit. but there is more that we can do. So let's take this on over to Photoshop, right click, and we'll edit as a smart object in Photoshop. And we'll pull it on over here, and now we have the opportunity to actually try to match tones with our dodging and burning of the colors that are already existing in the picture. And the way that we do that is we come on over and we add a layer, and then we're going to change this to soft light. And now we need to make sure that our colors are right about where we want them to be. So we'll go ahead and grab our paintbrush, and we'll grab our highlight color, pull that over here. And we know that it's kind of more of an orangish as opposed to the yellow that I have here. So we're going to turn up that tone, make it a bit warmer, just about there. And we're going to put it on the very lighter side. So almost white, but not quite there. So we get a little bit of that warmth in there. Switch these over. Now we're going to do our burn. And we know we're blue, probably maybe a little darker blue. We'll go with that for our shadows. And then almost black. You almost can't see the difference. We'll hit OK. At this point, we're going to come up, make sure we're using a very soft brush, and bring our opacity down to, we'll go, single digits are fine, but we'll go to 10 here. And we're going to start with our highlights. So increase our brush size. And we're going to start hitting all those same spots that we did with the low exposure, or the higher exposure, but with a little bit of color this time. And you can see how it just starts pulling it out, and that paint will come very, very quickly. So take your time here. And you can get as granular as you want. So maybe go over like these waves with a broader stroke of the highlights, even though you're hitting some of the shadows. But take your time and get on in there. And then we can come over and switch to our burn and get really small and get the near side of those waves where maybe the sun isn't hitting them as much or that light isn't. And what that does is it really just increases that dynamic range. Maybe not a whole lot, but enough to the eye to be able to make those waves pop out a little bit more, and those highlights to really start doing their job. And that's it. Dodging and burning is a total game changer once you get the hang of it. If you found this helpful, smash that like button, subscribe for more photography magic, and drop a comment if you want a deeper dive into advanced techniques. Until next time, keep clicking and keep creating.